Good morning, everybody. Mike's MMA Picks here with your Fight Morning Quick Card Breakdown show brought to you by BetDSI as well as MMA Oddsbreaker. We have UFC Vegas 29, Dan Ige versus Korean Zombie. 12 fights. Let's get right to it, my friends. First fight of the evening takes place at 125 pounds, where we have Casey O'Neill, who has an unblemished professional record of 6-0, coming off of a situation where she ran roughshod on Shayna Dobson. But that really does not say much. She's coming in as a plus 140 underdog and a DraftKings price of 7,700. An Australian grappler by trade, taking on Lara Procopio with a 7-1 record, minus 170 betting favorite, and a DraftKings price of 8,500. This fight, we saw the line open at a near pick'em, and Procopio has been bet up to a minus 170. You watch the tape, and Procopio has beaten legitimate competition. Also hung in there with Erosa. This is a fight where, if you dig a little bit deeper, you'll see that Casey O'Neill has fought many of her fights at 115 pounds, and she leaves a lot to be desired in the striking department. I have concern for O'Neill that she might get outmuscled here and also outstruck. If you look deeper into O'Neill's amateur record, she had been finished 2 separate times. Procopio has the gas tank. O'Neill also can push a pace, but I think that Procopio is far and away the better fighter in this specific bout, and I'll be picking her to win. Next up, we have Joaquim Silva with an 11-2 record. This guy has a tremendous physique, but physiques don't win you fights. Coming in at a minus 135 betting favorite and a DraftKings price of 8,300, taking on a Rick Glenn who has been away from the sport for quite some time. Rick Glenn with an impressive 21-6 overall record, plus 105 underdog and a DraftKings price of 7,900. Rick Glenn moving up to lightweight for this specific bout. Silva, we remember the fight against Jared Gordon where he took the kitchen sink and kept coming forward until Gordon was injured and then got brutally finished against the fence. Silva brutally knocked out against Nasrat Haqparast. This fight, it's a tale of two fights. Silva could come out here and be a marauder as he's done in the past, but he leaves himself open to gassing out. And Rick Glenn, as we know, will pepper away. Watch that Gavin Tucker fight. He will pepper away and use his length, create problems, create some adversity, and use his cardio as a weapon. So, dangerous fight, closely lined fight for a reason. I see this fight ending two separate ways. Either you've got Silva by finish, or he could potentially gas out here, and Rick Glenn could pour it on, win either a decision or get the stoppage victory. So I'll be picking Joaquim Silva hesitantly in that spot. I think the layoff is a major concern for both fighters. And this is one of those cards where we have fighters who are coming off of brutal knockouts. We have fighters who are moving up weight classes. And, we've got injuries too. We've got steroid suspensions. We've got a lot of things happening on this card. So be careful where you pick your spots here. Give me Silva, though. Next up, we have a low level heavyweight affair between Josh Parisian and Roque Martinez. Roque Martinez, 15-7-2 overall record. Martinez he's looked like a can. I hesitantly say that. He looks like he could be fighting at welterweight, honestly. The guy has the frame of a welterweight, but comes in at 250 plus pounds, plus 110 underdog, DraftKings price of 7,500. Martinez is very athletic, moves well for a big man. Parisian coming in with the much bigger frame, is a natural heavyweight, looks to put some pace on his opponents, but does not have great head movement, can get caught, has been dropped, and I don't put much stock in either of these fighters. But if you ask me to make a pick, and that's what we're here to do, Parisian's going to be my pick. I think that the size and also the ability that he has to land punches at range. Martinez is a fighter who, if he went on a diet, I could see that guy making welterweight at some point, going through some massive transformation, but that takes incredible willpower. You've got to move more and eat less, and he's not willing to do that. Martinez, I see him taking an L here. Parisian is going to be the pick. Next up, we have Matt Semelsberger, former football player, defensive player. I believe he was either a safety or defensive back. 9-2 overall record, plus 120 underdog. Don't let that football background fool you. He's got hands on him. 7,300. This line has closed. Chaos Williams, 11-2 overall record, minus 150 betting favorite. Also, Chaos Williams, he has that game-changing power. We saw what he did against Al Hassan, coming in with a DraftKings price of 8,900. This fight, I do not see this fight going the distance. I have a slight lean towards Chaos Williams. I think he's the more well put together striker here. Semelsberger should look to close distance and try to make this as ugly a fight as he can, try to drain Williams. That may not happen, though. You watch the Michel Pereira fight, and Williams hung in there, had his moments. I'll be picking Matt Semelsberger to win in that spot. I apologize. I retract that statement. I'm going to pick Chaos Williams to win and get it done inside the distance. I see possibly a vicious knockout incoming. Give me Chaos Williams in that spot. Next up, we have Vera Jandiroba, who is coming off of a somewhat controversial decision against Mackenzie Dern. She enters this bout as a minus 135 favorite and a DraftKings price of 8,400. Taking on Kanako Murata. Murata, a 12-1 record, fought on the international scene for Ryzen. She's coming in here as a plus 105 underdog and a DraftKings price of 7,800. You've got a wrestler in Murata taking on a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner, somebody who's a high-level black belt who has the ability to take the back and potentially lock up a submission. Murata, her striking is rudimentary. Same goes for Jandiroba. This is going to be a grappling fight, and I like Verna's. Verna's very sneaky, very crafty, especially when she's on her back. But I don't look to back fighters who end up on their back consistently. I'll be picking Jandiroba, I think that she's the craftier fighter, the fighter who has more tools in her toolbox. And Murata is untested as far as I'm concerned, especially in the UFC. Random Marcos is not a Random Marcos is washed. Give me Jandiroba to win. Next up, we've got Negumereanu plus 195. This is a fighter who is coming off of a thrashing last time out. Coming in, I remember I was at my son's birthday party while we were watching that fight, and I was like, oh my gosh. Safarov was a he was willing to do whatever it took, make that fight dirty, and put this kid in his place. So Nikolai, 6,900, taking on Alexa Camur. This is a low-level fight, my friends. Alexa Camur, minus 245 favorite, and Camur's one of the highest-priced DraftKings plays on this whole slate. What type of improvements has Nikolai made during his time off? Granted, there may have been some. You look at the footage and the resumes of Nikolai's opponents, big question marks in this bout. Now, Alexa Camur may have been a punching bag for Stipe Miocic throughout his career, but this kid Nikolai, unless he's made some dramatic improvements in the off season, in the years off, then Camur should be the favorite here. I don't think Nikolai deservedly pre-fight. These odds should be close. Give me Camur, but there are question marks. Negumereanu may potentially have improved in the offseason, but we don't know that. Hey, Daniel, good morning, sir. Pleasure to see you. Verna by sub. Murata always goes to her wrestling, and her striking isn't potent enough. I agree wholeheartedly, and the Verna by sub is sneaky. Got to keep an eye out for the line there, though. It's got to make sense. Let's say anything plus 200 or higher. Look out for that. Next up, we have another couple of fighters here who are coming to the end of their respective roads. Diego Lima, 15-8 record. Though you look at Lima's only 31 years of age, and he's taking on a Matt Brown, 22-18. 40 professional fights here for Matt Brown. Matt Brown has looked like a shell of himself, plus 155 underdog. Brown should come in here looking to grapple. That's his path to victory. 7,200. This fight's at welterweight. Brown, although he looks all right on the scale, and I don't know how he's still fighting in the UFC, to be honest. The last fight against Carlos Condit, that was his swan song for me. Lima is not a very dangerous opponent, though the leg kicks are going to be there, and he should try to land. The problem is Lima is not necessarily a volume striker. Matt Brown's going to come in, look to try to be a marauder, and then level change, put Lima on his back and hold him there and hopefully attempt to lock up a submission. I have a lot of respect for Matt Brown wanting to continue his career at this stage, but it is time to go. I'll be picking Diego Lima in this spot. Next up, where we have a fighter in Wellington Turman who's coming off of not only a brutal knockout at the hands of Andrew Sanchez, but also a very, very rough case of COVID that kept him out of multiple bookings. Wellington Turman, 16-4 overall record, plus 100 underdog, 7,400 in DraftKings. Taking on a Bruno Silva. You talk about a question mark fight. Here's another one. Bruno Silva, 19-6 overall record, was beating legitimate opponents in M1, though then popped for steroids and has been out for about 3 years. Bruno Silva coming in as a minus 130 favorite and a DraftKings price of 8,800. Now, this fight, I don't see it going the distance, but it's an interesting affair because you've got Bruno Silva, who doesn't throw for volume, is a larger middleweight who is going to look to strike. Does not necessarily have the great grappling game of Wellington Turman. Wellington Turman, he's got a couple of paths to victory here, though the more likely path is that he drags this fight to the mat and locks up a submission. Silva, though, question marks. The time off. Turman, question marks. The cardio, is it there? Is he going to go right to his wrestling and jiu-jitsu game? He's more of a power jiu-jitsu player, and he's huge for the division. You watched that weigh-in yesterday, and Turman looked massive. Wasn't expecting that this time around. In this bout, there are too many question marks here. Bruno Silva could land the knockout blow and did what he's done in the past. I mean, he has some wins over Shlomenko. I was at the Gegard Mousasi Shlomenko fight, and we saw that Shlomenko is a worthy opponent. Wellington Turman, he could get knocked out again, but I think more likely outcome is that he locks up a submission here. So look out for that submission prop. And also, I'll be picking the underdog in this spot. The big question mark for me is the knockout loss. What has that done to him? That was a brutal, brutal knockout. And also the COVID situation. Daniel, good morning, sir. I see Lima bringing out his jiu-jitsu. All right. Well, Matt Brown is also a he has jiu-jitsu in his back pocket that he can use. So I'll be picking Wellington Turman in that bout. Now, Juicy J, Julian Erosa, 25-8 overall record, coming in here with a man. He's got the experience. He does not have the power, and he does not have the chin. And it all comes down to the takedown defense of Seungwoo Choi. Seungwoo Choi, 9-3 overall record, minus 145, betting favorite, 8,600 in DraftKings. Erosa, we've written him off in the past, and he's come out and proved us wrong. The Sean Woodson knee. The Nate Landwehr just brutalizing his opponents, coming out like a man on fire. Erosa's playing with fire here against Choi, who has a chin on him. He's got to come in here looking to grapple and try to take Choi down and find the back and lock up a submission, because if he doesn't do that, Erosa has a tendency to close distance while striking and leaving his hands down in the process, and that leaves the counters to Choi. I lean Choi in this matchup, and if you can get 135 or even better, keep an eye out for that. Erosa, though, he has the experience, he has the grappling edge in this bout, so I don't totally count Erosa out, but give me Choi in that matchup. Next up, we have got a rematch of a bout that took place back in 2016. Marlon Chito Vera 18-7-1 record, taking on Davy Grant, who's coming in here with an 11-4 record. Not the most active fighter, but when he's fought, he's his body type and the way he fights, it's tough for opponents to get a read on him. He throws these long punches, leads in with hooks to the body, and then comes up top. Marlon Vera, tough out, tough to finish him. The fight that took place back in 2016, you saw a very, very green Marlon Vera who he hadn't grown into his body. He also had Mark Goddard, the referee, all up in his face the entire fight, grabbing the inside of Davy Grant's gloves, frustrating Vera, distracting Vera, going into his corner, taking points away. Davy Grant looked like he was getting the better of the striking and the grappling back then. Now, since that time, look at the level of competition, look at the rounds that have taken place, and look at the development in the striking that's taken place, and also the jiu-jitsu game. Vera locked up a submission win over Brian Kelleher. Since then, I was at that fight. He's gone on somewhat of a run, but also he's had a tendency to lose first rounds, and his opponents are in the fight. Davy Grant here, I see the first round of this bout being competitive because we know that Grant has big power. That is an issue. Vera, I think he's going to come out here, and this is a revenge fight, so to speak. He has a lot to prove, especially taking a round off of Jose Aldo, round 2, and then getting backpacked in the third round. Frustrating against Song Yadong, also in some tough spots, took over that fight late. Vera, higher output and more well put together striker. Granted, doesn't have the power that Davy Grant has. And also Davy Grant does have a submission. He's a submission threat as well. Give me Marlon Vera in that spot. Next up, where we head to heavyweights, where we have Alexei Oleinik with a 59-15-1 record. That is not a lie. One of the more distinguished, more seasoned veterans of the heavyweight division. Plus 195 underdog, DraftKings price of $7,000. Oleinik has to get a choke in, or else Spivak is going to come out here and maul him like the polar bear that he has tattooed across his chest. Sergey Spivak, 12-2 overall record, minus 245 betting favorite, DraftKings price of $9,200. Tons of respect for Oleinik. Dangerous. He can even lock up an Ezekiel choke while he's standing. It is incredible what he's been able to do. Incredible, though. Spivak, much younger. We've seen him fight some tough competition in Marcin Tybura. I'll be picking Sergey Spivak. I think the damage meter is just too high for Oleinik. A little dangerous, though, as far as the straight money line goes. Oleinik is always live to lock up a submission, but I'll be picking Spivak to win. Let's head to the main event of the evening, my friends, where we have Chen Sung-Jung, Korean Zombie, coming off of a pretty nasty loss to Brian Ortega. Brian Ortega also was coming off of a brutal loss to Max Holloway. Plus 105 underdog, 8,200 in DraftKings, taking on Dan Ige, who has been, man, what a sturdy fighter he is. 15-3 overall record. minus 135. Came in, looks chiseled on the scales, $8,000 minus 135 favorite. And this fight is at featherweight. Chan Sung Jung, one of the first fighters to the scale at weigh-ins, he's such a great counter striker. I love watching Korean Zombie fight. And if a fight hits the mat, he has sneaky submissions. Dan Ige, though, black belt in jiu-jitsu, tough to take down, tough as nails on the feet, can take the kitchen sink. We saw that Barbosa fight. This bout is lined very closely for a reason. I have a slight lean towards Dan Ige. Chan Sung Jung on the feet, in my eyes, is the more technical striker. I know he's got more mileage on him here, but I think Ige, when it comes to the deeper the fight goes, we're going to see him find a way. Some fighters just find a way, and Dan Ige, he's one of those guys. He will stay in the fight, and he takes leg kicks. He's gonna get countered here, and it's just a matter of, can he stay upright? Korean Zombie, we watched that Yair fight, very, very close to having Korean Zombie lock up that W and got caught. The durability is coming into question here. Brian Ortega shouldn't look that good on the feet, and that was disturbing to watch. So I'll be leaning Dan Ige. I'll be picking him for the victory. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We're going to have some plays up later this morning over at MMA Oddsbreaker Premium, and you can follow me at betmma.tips, on Twitter at MikesMMAPicks. Go get what's yours, my friends. Have a wonderful fight day. Sorry, I'm a little under the weather here, but we are this train rolls on, my friends. Let's do this.